welcome to the Spark of Ages podcast, where we're going to talk to game changers of all kinds about their big world-shaping ideas and what sparked them. I'm your host, Rajiv Parikh, and I'm the CEO and founder of Position Squared, a digital marketing company based in Palo Alto. So yes, I'm a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, but I'm also a business news junkie and a history nerd. I'm fascinated by how big world-changing movements go from the spark of an idea to an innovation that reshapes our lives. In every episode, we're going to do a deep dive with our guest about what led them to their own eureka moments and how they're going about executing it, and perhaps most importantly, how do they get other people to believe in them so that their idea can also become a spark for the ages. This is the Spark of Ages podcast. In addition to myself, we have our producer, Sandeep, who will occasionally chime in to make sure we don't get too in the weeds. But in this one,
you're in my wheelhouse.
I'm in your world today.
You're in my, welcome to my world. Just like I bring you to the Spark Tank, this is my world. Very excited about this episode. We're going to learn about video gaming. We're going to learn about 3D modeling, about VR. This is going to be a juicy one. I'm excited.
Unleashing the creative world of gaming for everyone. My guest today is Banks Boutte. Banks has been at the intersection of media and technology for 2 decades. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of Kitbash3D, a leader in premium 3D assets and software for the entertainment industry. Kitbash has been featured in films like Doctor Strange, Terminator, and Spider-Man, all amazing ones. TV shows such as Halo, Star Trek, and Love, Death, and Robots, and video games including The Last of Us, The Elder Scrolls, and NBA 2K. Before Kitbash, Banks worked on high-profile projects with Apple, Google, Xbox, and Twitch, with cultural icons such as George Clooney and Taylor Swift, My Daughter Loves You. In 2017, he executive produced Sleep Tight, the first Nintendo Switch game to port from Unreal Engine. He produced the first movie made by a single social network with Sony in 2013 and acted in the first movie within a casual video game in 2009. Banks, welcome to the Spark of Ages.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. This is very exciting.
To help a lot of my friends who come from technology and innovation space, I'm sure they play with games or deal in the gaming world, but the gaming industry is estimated at about $185 billion, which is bigger than the music, movie, and publishing industry combined. Like, it's that big. And so it's something that a lot of people live in and a lot of people do, but to those who are maybe past their 40s, maybe a little bit less so, right? So it's really interesting. And Banks, you play in this. Like, if I think about what I do in my company, where we do creative for various companies, we play with ways to enhance our systems. You're basically doing that for the gaming industry.
Well, you bring up a lot of really good points that, if you're in the 40 plus range, video games may or may not be as important to you as they are if you grew up playing video games. But here's some crazy stats for your niece or nephew who's now 18. When they were 9 to 12, 3 of every 4 kids in America were playing Roblox, which is an open world video game platform.
Yeah.
My niece at the time she's the same age as yours, was building, had her own house. She worked as a pizza delivery person and then was throwing parties in her virtual house with all of her friends.
And they say kids never get jobs.
That's right.
These days.
That's right.
Like, what are you talking about?
And, we really might see the workforce shift into what feels like a video game. And I really believe that is the trend we're seeing in so many different places, that the technology that is used to make video games has quickly become the technology that we use to make movies over the last decade. And that same technology is now, which is 3D technology, is spreading into just about every vertical, whether that's automotive, architecture, retail, fashion, live music. We're seeing this in so many different ways that the way we build on the Z-axis, right? Because most people think that 3D content means like I'm putting on a virtual reality headset or I'm looking at AR. But it's actually most of the 2D content, the video content that we are seeing, was created using 3D technology. So if we talk about 3D technology as one step removed from the end user experience, we're really talking about how do we make forward and backward work for you? Because most of what we see today on screen is two-dimensional. And if you look at where 2009 really took us to now, we had an entire revolution of video back before, in the early days of before actually the last writer's strike, we were shooting on film. You'd shoot a commercial, you'd take the film, it would cost you $40,000 just to see what you shot, just to process the film. And then came the red camera revolution, which for $20,000 you could shoot cinema quality. And then came DSLRs. And today, with a cell phone, everyone has a movie studio in their pocket, the ability not only to capture super high quality content, but to distribute it across the planet.
Right. In such a short time.
Such an incredible transformation in a super short period of time.
That's right.
This is so the economics of the smartphone, being able to capture images and the super low cost of storage and processing, or the incredible capabilities within that, enabled this revolution.
And we're wondering why the industry is struggling, right? Because it's the change was so rapid.
And it makes a ton of sense, right? That when we all harnessed the distribution model of that, we went from Hollywood and shooting on film and making movies to be a very, very select few who were able to achieve it with millions of dollars and hundreds of people, to now every business shoots their own video. Every business is distributing their own content. And we have the proliferation of like the personal brand, where every individual is now able to be a business and distributing their own content, where each human has the ability to be both a creator and a consumer. That same tip is happening right now with 3D, because the natural appetite, now that we have infinite amounts of video content that you can consume at the ready, and there's a wealth of it, the natural progression for people is to want to interact with that, is to want to, things like, I know Sandeep, you've done with Evan Funny, where you make a choose your own adventure, right? I'm now able to be there live, or doing a live stream where you can live communicate. Those are still 2D interfaces. But what the numbers really show is that video games and the mechanics of video games are being mass adopted in crazy numbers. We have more than 3 billion people on Earth would classify themselves as a gamer. The stigma is this is 15-year-old boys in their parents' bedroom, and 15-year-old boys in their parents' basement are actually playing a lot of video games. However, the average age of a gamer today is 34 years old, and 48% of them are women. So it is encapsulated the globe on just the mechanic of, I want to interact. I want the agency. I like to think of it like, I grew up watching Indiana Jones so that I could pretend to be Indiana Jones. But today I can inhabit a character in Uncharted and live that experience and make the choices for them.
Let me look at like what New York Times is even doing with their stuff, right? Like they bought Wordle. My time that I spend on New York Times is spent gaming more than it is consuming their reading. Their reading.
I think the same case is my wife is definitely in the same case. To your point, Banks, about gaming and families, right? Before, like you said, there was a 15-year-old thing, but according to some of the folks in the gaming industry, they say that in the surveys that they ran, 83% of parents say they play video games with their kids.
Yeah.
And 50% play with their kids at least every week. So it's actually a way for them to do something together.
Truly, that many people will connect. I know a single dad who plays with his kid, and he plays with all of his kids' friends. Yeah. And he gets to enjoy in the process of doing the thing that kids are really into. I came from actually having a youth sports program, and I did it on the weekends with my best buddy. And it was 2016, and it was a really hot day in Encino. We taught nearly 1,000 kids in 11 markets in LA, leadership and community development. But what happened was we came off the field, and I was really pumped up, and the dads were really pumped up, and we were talking about how little Jimmy was improving. And then Jimmy and his buddy run over, and they're like, Dad, can we have it? Can we have it? And the dad kind of sighs and rolls his eyes and hands the phone to the kids, and they run off. And they're really into that. They're more into that than the peak moments of what we were doing. What is this? And he's like, oh, it's this new thing called like Pokemon Go or something. And that was the first time I ever saw it. And then that same week I went home and saw my nephew, who was 4 at the time. He's nearly 12 now. And while I was having a conversation with someone just like this, he pulled my phone out of my pocket. And before I could turn around and see what he was doing, he had downloaded a game called Rednecks versus Zombies. And he was 4 years old. Wow. And was running around splattering blood on my screen. And I was like, first off, give me that. What are you doing? And my second thought was like, how did you know how to do that? If you're already natively in a 3D immersive environment, either I'm going to be the old guy on the stump saying, in my day, we ran around and played with our buddies. or I'm going to understand at least how the mechanics of this are changing. And so since back then, 2016, I started making our first video game, which we made a Nintendo Switch game about kids. You build pillow forts and fight monsters that come every night.
I'm aware. I was in it.
Sandeep did a voice in it. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
god!
I played like a cowboy kid or something like that.
No, it's my superhero theme song.
Oh, I was a superhero. That's what it was. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for that, by the way. That was incredible.
So you started way back in 2016, and then you went from there. But before you go there, I want
Sure.
to start you from what your firm is doing today, and then we're gonna go backwards.
Love it.
Let's start with what does Kitbash do? So your company today is Kitbash3D. It looks really interesting and cool, but if you're not in the industry, you probably don't know what it is. So explain it to your mom.
Great question. Great framing too. I'm still working this out, trying to explain it to my mom. So we believe that the internet itself is going 3D, and that today, you scroll up and down and swipe left and right. You're looking at text and watching 2D video, but tomorrow you'll go forward and backward. And when that z-axis comes to the internet, fundamentally the fabric of human connectivity will change. So with that idea, we believed back at the beginning that game engines were the gateway to this. And it was video games today and back then, as well as movies, were the business model that it existed in 2016, 17, 18, and today, that were the people who were using 3D technology. And so we thought the people making movies and games were disproportionately well positioned to have an impact on where we eventually go by 2025, 26. And so the first thing we did, my business partner is a visual effects artist. He worked on everything from Halo and Game of Thrones and Far Cry and Iron Man and pretty much anything big in the summer. He was building worlds in.
Insane.
And so with him, we knew, he and I, Max is the name, we were good buddies for nearly 10 years before we started Kitbash. And we knew that 3D assets were a massive problem for studios. So to take it even one step back, a 3D asset, you can think of like a virtual Lego. It's a castle or a spaceship or a road or a traffic cone that you can use to build a virtual 3D environment, something that you'd see, if you think about it like a video game, something you'd see in a video game. But that same technology is also
a virtual proper set, right?
A virtual proper set, exactly. And I think what you're alluding to is virtual production in these last few years has really taken off with things like The Mandalorian, where instead of shooting against a green screen, you can shoot against an LED wall. The same technology that we use to make video games is now the same technology that we use to make movies. So we can shoot in a live environment, in a virtual environment. You can put actors there, and you can move the sun, you can move a mountain if you want, and you can see what's happening in real time, because that's really what the technology of video games is called, is real time, because it's rendering what you're doing as you make a change. Different from a movie where it's pre-baked and you put the camera on rails and here's one shot that you're going to see. In video game technology, you have the ability to change it in real time. So that fundamental technology is what we thought was the most important piece that we wanted to focus on. So we knew that 3D assets were a massive problem for studios. They are still to this day. It's a mess with how do you organize, use, reuse, and share a 3D asset. Because if you think about this, an analogy, think of if you have an iPhone and I have an Android and you want to send me a photograph, you're going to send me a JPEG, right? Or if you want to send me a document, you're going to send me a PDF. Mm-hmm. That standardization of files doesn't exist yet for 3D. Nice. So moving 3D assets, studios are taking 30 to 50% of their budgets and spending it on building assets, but then they can't reuse those same assets from movie to movie. It'd be as if you had to build the backlot of Paramount's New York set every time you wanted to build a movie. So we knew it was a problem for them, but when we made our game, we recognized that it would be a completely prohibitive barrier for individuals trying to get into the space. So if you were a team of 5, we were very lucky because we had a lot of friends in the movie business who could help us build the world of our game. But if you didn't have that network, assets would be a completely prohibitive barrier for you realizing your vision.
That's right.
So Kitbash set out to build a library up to the standards of the largest movie studios and video game studios in the world, and then proliferate that library to individuals around the world.
So you created a standard. So you're basically, in a way, you're democratizing, you're enabling greater creativity by taking what a big studio can do and enabling almost any creator who wants to create their own game to have their own studios by reusing elements that have been built with your capabilities.
That's exactly right. We are like the largest prop house and movie backlot studio for making movies that you can also use to make games. And that was
really cool.
That was where we started, and really what was important to us is making a premium quality asset. We wanted to make something that just worked and it was very functional, that an individual, a 19-year-old on their laptop could use, as well as the largest studios would find this was accelerating them.
Is that what you're finding? That's my question. Is like we talked about sort of influencers and how everybody's making their own, is able to make and consume their own content. Like, is it that you're finding that these 19-year-olds are using your stuff to create TikToks? And
we had a 6-year-old in the office who was a son of a friend who came by, never used a mouse before, and built a world in an hour.
Wow.
But we are seeing this at scale. We're seeing it in every channel. And this is, for us, has been the last 5 or 6 years. We've seen it across industries. We've seen it at all levels of production, where we do a challenge called Mission. Well, with our last challenge, we do frequent challenges, but our last one was called Mission to Minerva. And we created a fictitious galaxy that we found. And we built a kit that was kind of like Star Trek and Buzz Lightyear, very much about space discovery, and said, take the free kit and build a world within the galaxy.
So like this is like your version of a hackathon, right? Like
exactly. Yeah. We built a user-generated galaxy together.
That's super fun.
And we had people, who worked on the largest movies and games contribute to that, as well as people who had never done it before. So really cool to see what you can do, just intuitively, like playing with Legos.
I mean, I tell you, when I go to your website, it's just really stunning, the kinds of images that are there. And then I had to try to understand it. Now I think I truly understand it. Like, these are reusable components that you can then modify and build off of, as opposed to building from scratch. So it's really amazing. So if you were to characterize what your innovation is are you helping folks reuse content? Are you helping folks by creating a common standard? Are you creating a marketplace? Or is it all these things?
Everything except the marketplace. So there are other open marketplaces. Think of them like Etsy or YouTube. And what we think of Kitbash is as kind of like HBO, where everything that we build is up to the exact same standards. We have to date the largest premium 3D library available outside of a major studio, where every single model works with every single material. A material is like wood or glass. So you can swap the entire library with itself. And this becomes really important as we get to the next chapters, because that's where we started. And then we built, the innovation is really underneath the hood. And without getting too technical, we built a pipeline for how to build these types of assets. So we built a lot of software around that. And then we built a pipeline for how to distribute these assets. So we have software where, like when trying to send a JPEG to multiple different devices and open it with different software, we can send you one asset file, and you can open that in any 3D software that you're using. So we built proprietary technology that will help us move assets across the pipeline, because what's happening for many studios and even individuals is they're using multiple different software that they have to either rebuild assets for themselves, which is nearly impossible to do from the time side, or they can't share assets from one department to the other. Or when you're making a transmedia project and you've got your movie and you want to make a video game and you want to do some marketing for it. We're seeing the same problem if you think about building a car, right? The designers will design a 3D model of the car. Then they will send that into production and rebuild it. Then when they want to market that, they're rebuilding the assets, as I'm sure you guys are seeing left and right. And they're not able to share that model or that same asset in a way that would save you 30 to 60% of your time right out the gate.
Would you characterize that as the biggest benefit? Is this if I boil it down to a few top benefits, it's usually like some kind of efficiency benefit or some kind of effectiveness or productivity benefit, or maybe some kind of creativity benefit as a result? Or
it's a good question. It's certainly an efficiency play. It is also a massive boost in what you're able to do if you're a small team. And so it allows you to take different pieces of it depending on who the customer is, because we've been able to build a singular type of product and serve it to a number of different customers.
Say you're, I don't know, a small team like F and Funny and really wants to create some stuff with 3D.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I'm just throwing that out there as an idea.
Just a random off the cuff example.
Just a random poll.
Yeah, the play would be there that with using Kitbash, you'll be able to build a world faster, better, and cheaper than ever before. And for a small team, that really means breaking down many prohibitive barriers that would have stopped you and forced you to make something flat, force you to make a video, force you to make something much more passive. The things we hear from studios of that size is without Kitbash, they never would have been able to do it.
That's awesome. So if I'm a big studio, my benefit is
probably save 80% of the time in your initial blockout phases. Your teams will work faster together. They'll be able to share and be much more cost saving in myriad ways across the pipeline. And you will have access to so much work that's already been done for you.
How do I deal with the licensing? I made something unique. I don't want someone else to have it.
Really good and important question, because particularly in the movie business, the product is seen, right? So you can't just put Spider-Man on the Chrysler building because there are copyrights even to architecture. And the copyright laws of architecture are nuanced, but they are very specific if you have an asset in the foreground, if you're shooting something that becomes part of the story. So what we do is, instead of building a one-for-one of Manhattan, we take inspiration from all the buildings in Manhattan. We have architects and concept artists on our team who will look deeply at what does it mean to feel like Manhattan, and then they'll build wholly unique structures within that, so that when you use our Manhattan kit, you can feel very comfortable that you're going to have the license to do it.
So I don't have to worry if I take my team and I say, hey, look, I want to create some really cool new video assets for my clients. I want to, because we're doing 3D work for folks who make actual devices. We make it really cool and approachable. I can now put them into this very cool game universe, and I can just go to Kitbash3D, and my client is not going to get stressed out about licensing problems. This is awesome.
You can put them right into the city of New York.
New York. Yeah. But to feel confident about it, and that copyright is becoming such a major issue that we need everyone to be able to do things without ripping someone else off. And so that just comes down to a licensing and legal issue.
How do you do this? I mean, how big's your team?
We're about 70 now.
Wow.
And the team we built a very rigorous process. So lots and lots of documentation, lots and lots of software to help the team work in between the cracks. And to the other point you asked, how do we make every building, how do we not have every scene look the same? Yeah. And there's numbers of things you can do. First, the buildings are entirely modular. So if you want to change the doors, you want to change the roof, you can swap them out very easily. But also it's think of it like shooting in Paramount. We shot 100 different productions on the New York backlot in Paramount, but you change the lighting, you change the foreground character, you change the narrative, and all of a sudden you have a different story. So there are 10 to 25% of what you need is bespoke to your project. And the other 75% you could reuse as we've done for decades in the real world.
Wow. Now there must be other competitors doing similar things. Yes, no, maybe so.
Definitely. 3D assets is an enormous industry because if you think about the way 3D technology is proliferating into every vertical you can imagine is trying to adopt 3D technology very similarly to the way every vertical adopted 2D video in the last decades. Many, many people are building 3D assets. If you think of like Wayfair, the furniture company, they're producing like 30,000 3D assets a month. Usability and standardization of assets is a whole different story, but every single object in the virtual frontier is a 3D asset. So there are lots of people doing this in different ways, serving different industries. What Kitbash is specialized in is being a premium asset, if you think of that HBO type model. And then how do we help other industries now is a big conversation for us around the automobile industry. We've worked with Porsche and Ferrari, helping them conceptualize what the future of their cars will look like, or the live music space. Dr. Dre at the Super Bowl is using our assets, or Taylor Swift, or Childish Gambino at Coachella, or BTS, Coldplay, are using this to expand and build much more interesting and interactive spaces. So
you've talked about your technology, your capability, how many people are using it. How do they find you? Do you reach out to them? Do you have a sales team? Do they just find you on the internet? Is it all by reputation? How do you do it?
Great question. I love this. I think our mission has never been to make 3D assets or to sell 3D assets or to work on movies or video games. Our mission has been to enable and inspire the creators of the virtual frontier. And it's literally on everything. You can see it on my coffee cup here.
I like that mission though. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really important to us to start with why and to understand what it is that we're actually doing. So the very first thing we did, and this is at launch, was connect with the community. And so because my business partner was a visual effects artist and my background was in production, we had a lot of friends in the space already. And so at launch, we built like a Coachella style live stream festival. We called it the Kitbash3D Festival. And we got artists from Star Wars and Blade Runner to come on and do sets where live with the audience, they build a world in an hour. And then we'd interview them while they were going. And we partnered with a school who had a community of artists already. And so we connected the Star Wars art director to their students and built community that way. And
that's so
we've
cool.
done that same thing in 100 different ways over the last couple of years. We partnered with, really actually this in 2007 to 21. We partnered with Twitch and we were on the front page of Twitch for lots and lots of different things. We had nearly 5 million live viewers. At one point, we did a tournament where we had individuals from an 18-year-old in the Philippines against a 19-year-old in Germany being live coached, like The Voice, with the Spider-Verse art director and the Blade Runner team. And they were like stick figure drawing and as they built worlds in real time. So for us, it has always been about how do we bring value to this group of people and finding where those people are and connecting with them. We, of course, have, a marketing team and we performance plays into that and email marketing is stable for us. But we have a subscription product today, but we always sort of acted like we were a subscription business. We actually didn't realize the difference when we were an e-commerce business, but we were always treating our community like the point was to bring them value and have them go along for this ride, because we believe that this space doesn't even really proliferate until 2025 is what we've been talking about since 2016. And so our thought was, let's just buy credibility and trust and build a community with this group of people. And then truly, because we did that, that group of people has grown with us. They've all been able to do a whole bunch more things than they ever would have been able to before. And then they continue to show up and participate with us along the way.
So you're going community out. You enable the community. You give them something free to play with. You let them play with their own. They almost teach themselves about how to use this. You create challenges, you get awareness, and then eventually they'll say, I need to do this in what I'm building. And that's how they end up learning about you and buying from you. So it's really cool.
The way you phrased it, teaching themselves, is literally what happens. We have our Discord community entirely run by community members. We have people out there who are building and making tutorials and teaching one another all the time. One of the things we love doing is tag teams where one artist starts something and another artist will finish it, and you get to connect with someone around the
like
world.
A Stitch almost. Yeah, cool.
The community is unbelievable. And that's literally all this has been about, is we believe these people who are using 3D technology are going to have a disproportionately massive impact on where we go next as a society. So our thought was, can we help enable and inspire them to build better worlds that help other people? We first thought, we believe this is an inevitability that the internet's going to get its Z-axis. So should we do that, right? A theme park? And then it was, no, let's actually, instead of that, let's try to enable and inspire each other and a small team to enable and inspire a community whose their output will then enable and inspire the rest of the world.
And is that how you seek to scale further? Like at some point, like you must have started, usually, have you bootstrapped this or is this venture funded?
We're entirely bootstrapped.
And then as you're scaling this, are you going with the community to scale it? Or are you going to try to, sort of drive it even further? Like you can go with your community, but then sometimes as a founder, I find I get impatient and I'm like, I want to skip steps and I want to get it to more people. So I need to either raise or create a marketing team or a sales team or something to get it further.
It's a really good point. The constant velocity and gas question. We have been very fortunate to get to work with amazing partners and get to bring value in today's market in different ways to different people. And so we're in a fantastic industry with incredible other companies who all are really looking forward as well. And so getting to make collaborative partnerships and find the right way to bring different value has made it so we've been able to pour gas onto what we do, expand into new markets and serve new communities while still being able to stay very mission focused.
We always want to find out, like, you've built this business, you built based on what you know and you love, and you've been able to follow with it and go with it and create something. I know you have a great co-founder, you have a great team. What drives you? What got you to this point? Like, what made you go into this business? Like, you've been an actor before, right? What got you into this?
Damn good actor too.
I appreciate
that stage.
You're hearing it from the director.
Well, acting is, we can talk about that for just a moment. Acting is wonderful training for how to be an entrepreneur, or for even how to just get a job. The role
or how
of
to date.
I mean, truly, to be a person, really, right, is the practice of an actor. But you're put in situations constantly where you have to understand your product, which in that business, I think one of the toughest parts is the product is encapsulated inside your own body. But then you have to go out and you have to demonstrate the value of that product over and over and over again. You have to deal with shifting and changing and fielding lots and lots of feedback and understanding what your market is. For me, why this is important is very, very specific. I believe we are at one of the most important inflection points in technological history. And I think this type of technology is changing the way not only people's attention and not only what people do with their time, but how people feel. And I think that is really deeply important, that we look at this as a society, and that we get as many people with missions larger than bottom lines to focus on this and help improve this. Because I think we have a very slim window in history here where this is somewhat niche, and tomorrow it's going to be completely ubiquitous. And if we build it like we built some of the last versions of this type of transformative technology, we are going to continue down a pretty precarious path. And so I feel like it is responsible, or at least within my ability to respond with the very best of my efforts, and anyone else who sees this, to get involved in this and understand how important this moment in history is, and the opportunity provided to people who are early on the wave.
So just talking about being proactive versus sort of reactive. I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily our nature as human beings, with the world competing against each other constantly for the bottom line and for resources and for each other. But it's inspiring to hear that said out loud, and I do hope people follow that vision. I do wonder, going back though to younger Banks, like, I understand you wanting this now with everything that's going on and where you've been, but where did it all stem from? Was it your parents? Was it a role model?
Great question. I had wonderful parents, and incredibly high achieving parents, who believed that real change was possible. My mother's an architect. My entire life was spent, we'd walk into a house that we were looking at, and she'd draw it in a new way. And then I'd get to live in that room. And my father was on the business side in many different ways, quite transformative in how he worked in environmental law and, spent time at the Pentagon and the Supreme Court. And I from a very early age was instilled with a belief that you can make things better, and that you have a responsibility to if you see it. And then I got into team sports. And team sports, when we talk about mentorship, my father was very sick at a young age, and my coaches became pivotal figures, and specifically my 7th and 8th grade coach, which was during the years that my dad passed away. And he really showed me what a group of people can do. And the sport I played defense. And what's really cool about it is you have one extra player with the goalie. And the whole process is, can this group of 7 beat and outmaneuver through communicating that group of 6 who knows what they're going to do? And so feeling and understanding the value of teamwork and the value of what something much larger than myself could do was very early just born into my brain. And from that idea that we can together build something better than the place that we're on, supersedes the competition. Competition is inherent in all of life, and I think that's important, and that's fine. And that's a really important piece to drive us all forward. But the actual reason of the game isn't to win. The reason of the game is to play. And so, of course, we are trying and keeping score, and you need dollars to run your operation, but that's not the point. And so if we can handle the dichotomy of that, then we can go forward towards things of much higher ideals and build things much better. So for me, I as an adult started the kids program on the weekends with my best friend from growing up, with the idea that we were going to help teach leadership and community development to tomorrow's leaders through the sport that we grew up loving. Then I realized kids like video games more than they like sports today. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I just think that is a fact if you look at the numbers. And so I thought the best way that I could participate in helping making larger change was to go to the people who are creating these experiences and build on top of that. And that is in a never-ending mission. There is no finality to that. It just keeps stacking on top of itself in types of things, types of products we can build, people and verticals that we can reach, and more impact that we can have.
That's beautiful. I love it.
All right. Given your love of sports, let's see if competition still burns brightly within your soul. Banks, I'm throwing you right into the Spark Tank.
Spark Tank.
That's right. In this thrilling round of the Spark Tank, we're going to find out what is real. We're going to play some two truths and a lie. And today we have two titans of industry ready to put their knowledge of the crazy world of video games, VR, and 3D modeling to the test. Okay. In one corner, we've got Banks Boutte, the visionary CEO of Kitbash3D, a company known for cutting edge work in virtual reality. And in another, we've got my brother who's really good at marketing. So let's see if your skills stand up. Let's see if your skills stand up in this.
That's all I get.
World. It's all about. Look, and I guess maybe has played Smash Brothers once. He couldn't even confirm or deny that. Okay. Anyway, so what I'm going to give you is two truths and a lie. It's going to be three statements. You have to determine which one is the lie, and we're gonna deliver that at the count of three. After I read them, you're gonna have to lock in your answer and then put up 1, 2, or 3 so that you can't cheat off of each other or be inspired by each other. And we'll see who's gonna figure this out. Are you ready to separate fact from fiction here? You guys good?
Let's give it a go.
Round one. Number one, a company in Japan offers a service to create a virtual reality duplicate of a deceased loved one, allowing for simulated conversations and interactions. 2, a video game development studio in the United States has partnered with a bird sanctuary to design an augmented reality bird watching experience where users are given notes and instructions on bird calls a la SingStar so that you can attempt to communicate with the birds. Number 3, a 3D modeling firm in the US is working on a project to digitize historical artifacts and create virtual reality museums where users can interact with objects from the past using photogrammetry techniques to capture detailed models of artifacts that are too fragile to handle physically.
Well, now I'm just looking for clues in Sandeep's delivery.
He's very good. He's got the ultimate poker face.
I was kind of stuttering on that one. We'll see how it goes. All right, here we go. So you guys got your answers mentally locked in? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, you both went with 2, the bird sanctuary. So yes, while VR bird watching experiences do exist, I have not found one where they have when you've been able to coo so perfectly that a pigeon falls in love with you. So yeah, you're right. It was number 2. Okay,
I was just going on the notion of people who are birders actually want to be around birds and they don't want to.
No, but there are virtual reality bird watching experiences. Right, so yeah,
it's
not
coming.
Yet is right.
We're going to be able to talk to our dogs very soon.
I find the first 1 and 3 more believable, just because.
Yes, that is right. Yeah. There's the Japanese company is called Digital Shaman, and so they're able to provide these digital afterlife experiences for grieving families. And the Smithsonian Institution is the one, of course, creating 3D models of artifacts.
Real innovation.
It's really cool. And we can see objects that we may never have been able to see in person because the stuff is so, fragile or whatever.
I mean, can I just add to that for a second? I think the most exciting area is in education. And I think the most important places that we can develop our skill set and improve upon is using new tools, things like video game mechanics, to engage with kids in wholly new ways and get them much more interested in improving and growing in a way that doesn't feel like the Industrial Revolution, like you're waiting for the bell to ring, but rather you're engaged in things that feel like play. And I think we're
Truly
going to
experiential.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think we're going to see that in really exciting ways in this next
It's very
chapter.
sweet and hopeful and kind, and nothing of that is what the Spark Tank is about. It's cutthroat. Okay, so I don't want to hear this. All right,
Come on, Banks, you gotta beat me. I'm 2-17.
yeah, it's true.
That's
He's actually
two in a row.
He's on a
Two in a row.
two-game winning streak.
I don't
right
want to
now,
be.
so-
I don't want to be that 3.
So we'll see. You don't want to be at 3. Here we go. All right. Round 2. A Japanese company offers a service for 3D printed figurines of video game characters with such precision that the figurines not only capture the character's exact in-game appearance, but also reflect any real-time changes made to the character's appearance within the game, such as different outfits or equipment upgrades. Number 2, a virtual reality startup in California has developed a haptic suit that has recently become commercially available at an extremely high price point, which allows its very rich clientele to be the first to feel physical sensations while playing popular VR games such as wind, rain, and even punches. Number 3, a 3D model company in Germany specializes in creating hyper-realistic virtual models of food so that are so mouthwatering and effective, it's led to experimenting with the technology to add haptic feedback so that they could feel the texture and temperature of the virtual food. All right, which one of these is the lie? Is it the Japanese company with the 3D figurines of video games, the haptic suit where you can take a punch, or the hyper real delicious McDonald's? 1, 2, or 3. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, you both say 3. Let's see. There's a German company called Lemon Pie that specializes in creating hyper-realistic virtual models of food. And yes, that's right. They are in fact researching whether they can create haptic feedback to allow texture and temperature. So I'm so sorry.
But they haven't done it yet.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, they haven't done that piece yet, but
So it's on the road.
if you heard how I carefully phrased it,
I thought, okay. I thought
it is still true.
Taste.
It has led to experimenting with the technology.
Umami.
That's right.
Try doing umami.
But yes, the lie in this case, the haptic suit. There's while that has been developed, there's no commercially available haptic suit for rich people. I'm so sorry, Elon. All right, so the lie is number 2. You guys are tied 1-1. Here we go. Final round. You guys must choose a different number. Okay, that's the rule of this round. So I'm going to force one of you to change if you guys end up picking the same number. Here we go. Number 1, a video game company in Sweden has created a plant-powered controller that incorporates bioelectrical chemical sensors to harvest energy from the user's touch and movement. Number 2, a VR therapy company in the UK offers a virtual reality experience designed to help people overcome their fear of public speaking. Number 3, a 3D printing company in Australia has developed a process to create edible 3D printed replicas of famous paintings using a variety of flavors and textures. Which one is the lie? Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, good. You guys both chose different ones. Now, Banks, you chose the plant-powered controller as the lie, and Rajiv said the edible 3D printed famous paintings. An Australian company, the Sugar Lab, specializes in creating 3D printed replicas of famous paintings using a variety of flavors and textures. They even offer custom designs for special occasions like weddings and birthdays. And guess what we have to celebrate? Your loss, Rajiv, and Banks' win in Spark Tank. Congratulations, Banks, for taking it down. Well
down to the
done.
wire. Down to the wire.
Down to the wire, but you did it.
Well,
You did it.
I'm glad my guest wins. It's very Indian of me to want my guest to win. So I know you beat me in the game. Now try to inspire me by what is a motto that you live by, or that you would suggest for other founders to live by?
I want to give you a great answer there. The highest form of human happiness is being part of something larger than yourself.
Nailed it.
Nailed
Love
it. Nailed
Love
it. Banks, dude, thank you so much for joining us. This is wonderful.
Great to see you both. Thanks so much, guys.
Wow, you nailed it. So the Banks is really interesting. What an amazing guy. He has an incredible set of experiences.
See, I can book good folks too, man.
Researching him prior to this, it was so much fun to, because my firm does a lot of creative work, but more for companies. just going to his website, learning about what he does, seeing the rich images, asking my team about what it does. And hey, can we use some of this? It was so much fun. I mean, he's gone from being an actor to an entrepreneur, and he builds communities, and from those communities drives great creativity and innovation. And he's just so mission driven. So it's just, it's a great combination.
I really love that the connective tissue was like, how do I help? Like that seemed to be really what drove him. You know, I've known him for years, and making that connective tissue, he's always been this lacrosse coach guy, you know, actor dude, to this, you know, now CEO of a company, but it's still the same. It's still the same spark. It's still that thing of like, okay, well, kids are playing these video games. Like, how can I be most helpful in this space to them, so that the world that we're living in, whether it's virtual or real, is at least shaped authentically from a place of intention to be maximally helpful.
Tremendous respect for anyone who bootstraps their own business and builds a great following and follows their instincts on building community and enabling that community to be that point of interaction and play. And it's just super fascinating.
I know. I want to steal that model for effing funny. I really love what he's doing.
All right. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the pod, please take a moment to rate it and comment. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts can be found.
That's right. This show is managed and produced by Sandeep Parikh and Anand Shah. And our project manager and research is Anand Shah. The show is edited by Sean Marr and Aidan McGarvey.
Special shout out to Anand Shah for fantastic research for us. I'm your host, Rajiv Parikh from Position Squared, a leading AI-based growth marketing company based in Silicon Valley. Come visit us at position2.com.
This has been an effing funny production.
We'll catch you next time. And remember, folks, be ever curious.